Here's a story that perfectly captures the brutal reality of thoroughbred racing. Sometimes the most promising stars never get their chance to shine. Jonathan's Way has officially hung up his racing silks and will begin his breeding career at Airdrie Stud in Kentucky come 2026. But here's where it gets controversial. This decision comes after a career that many believe was cut tragically short, leaving us all wondering what might have been. Let's rewind to when this dark bay colt first caught everyone's attention. As a 2-year-old, Jonathan's Way wasn't just good. He was spectacular. He burst onto the scene with a maiden victory at the prestigious Saratoga racecourse, then followed that up with a dominant 2 3/4 length triumph over Owen Almighty in the 2024 Iroquois Stakes, Grade 3 at Churchill Downs. For those new to racing, winning a graded stakes race as a juvenile is like hitting a home run in your first major league at bat. It doesn't happen often, and when it does, people take notice. But here's the part that makes this story both fascinating and heartbreaking. Jonathan's Way finished his racing career with just 4 starts, compiling a record of 2 wins, 1 second-place finish, and 0 third-place finishes, earning $268,530 for owner Rigney Racing. After those initial victories, he placed 7th in the prestigious Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Grade 1 at Del Mar. Still respectable company for a young horse. Then came his runner-up performance in the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes, Grade 2 at Churchill Downs, where he finished behind First Resort, but notably ahead of Tiztastic, who would go on to win the Louisiana Derby. And this is the part most people miss. That second-place finish in the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes wasn't just a good result. It was a statement. The racing world took notice, and Jonathan's Way found himself included in the Kentucky Derby future wager pools, essentially meaning handicappers believed he had legitimate Derby potential. So what went wrong? Here's where the story takes a devastating turn that highlights one of racing's cruelest realities. Jonathan's Way never made it to the starting gate as a 3-year-old. Not once. He was originally entered in the Risen Star Stakes, Grade 2, at Fairgrounds Racecourse in February, a key Derby prep race. But trainer Phil Bauer had to scratch him due to what seemed like a minor issue, an unsatisfactory blood count. In racing terms, this is usually a temporary setback, nothing more than a speed bump on the road to the Derby. Except it wasn't temporary. The infection that caused the blood count issues was treated successfully, but then something far more serious developed. Jonathan's Way contracted life-threatening colitis, a severe inflammation of the large intestine that can be fatal in horses. For those unfamiliar with equine health issues, colitis in horses is like a perfect storm in the worst possible way. It can cause severe dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, and secondary complications that can drag on for months. That's exactly what happened. The colitis set Jonathan's Way back for several months and led to additional complications that ultimately forced Connections to make the difficult decision to retire him from racing entirely. As a racehorse, Jonathan's Way was a very special talent that honestly exceeded the ability of the best horses I have ever been around. Trainer Phil Bauer reflected in a statement released by Airdrie Stud. He is an absolutely beautifully made horse, and he translated that beauty to the way he moved on the track. He was poetry in motion. Bauer's words carry extra weight when you consider his experience in the industry. This isn't a trainer trying to hype up a mediocre horse. This is a professional who has seen plenty of good horses making a bold claim about exceptional talent. He was also the gold standard of class every day in the barn. And as he battled through his illness, Bauer continued, "I don't believe we got to see the best of Jonathan's Way, but I do believe he has a great chance to show everyone how special he was through his stallion career." Now here's where the breeding world gets really interesting, and where some might argue the real controversy lies. Jonathan's Way wasn't just any horse. He's a son of Vekoma, who topped the first crop sire standings in 2024 and continues to dominate as he leads the second crop sire standings as of September 5th, 2025. For those new to breeding terminology, a first crop sire refers to a stallion's first group of racing offspring, and topping those standings means your babies are winning more races and earning more money than anyone else's babies. Vekoma currently commands a $35,000 stud fee at Spendthrift Farm in Kentucky. Not exactly pocket change, but reasonable for a stallion of his caliber. The fact that his fee reflects his success makes Jonathan's Way's retirement decision even more intriguing from a business perspective. But let's talk about the money trail that led to this moment. Jonathan's Way wasn't just plucked from obscurity. He was a carefully selected investment. Bloodstock agent John Moynihan, known as one of the sharpest judges of horseflesh in the business, purchased the colt for $290,000 as a weanling at the 2022 Keeneland November breeding stock sale. In the thoroughbred world, that's serious money for an unproven baby horse, but Moynihan saw something special. The breeding on paper certainly supported that investment. Jonathan's Way was bred by Susan L. Anderson Racing in Ohio out of Female Drama, a stakes-winning mare by Indian Charlie. For racing fans keeping score at home, Female Drama was undefeated as a 2-year-old stakes winner. Exactly the kind of proven race mare that produces quality offspring. Jonathan's Way also has a half-brother, Start D from the Bottom, by Ken Theros, who earned multiple stakes placings in Ohio, showing that the family has a pattern of producing competitive runners. But here's where the breeding really gets exciting, and where Airdrie Stud clearly sees the long-term potential. According to the farm, Jonathan's Way traces back to a deep female family that was carefully cultivated by legendary figures like Joseph Allen and Darby Dan Farm. This lineage has produced some serious horsepower over the generations, including perennial leading sire Dynaformer, multiple Grade 1 winner Memories of Silver, and an impressive 23 individual Grade 1 or Group 1 winners through his first 6 dams. For those wondering what this means in practical terms, it's like having a family tree filled with Olympic athletes. It doesn't guarantee success, but it certainly increases the odds. In our opinion, there is no ceiling on Jonathan's Way's potential at stud, declared Airdrie Stud's Brett Jones, and this is where things get really interesting from a business and philosophical standpoint. Jones continued with a statement that might raise some eyebrows. Everyone who has spent time with this horse reveres him, and anyone who has watched his races has to recognize his immense talent. Because of bad luck, he never had a chance to showcase that talent as a 3-year-old. But that fits the description of some of the most important stallions to stand at stud. From Not This Time and Dark Angel today, on back to Hail to Reason and Raise a Native. Now that's a bold comparison, and it raises a fascinating question that divides the racing community. Can a horse with limited racing accomplishments succeed as a stallion based purely on talent and pedigree? Jones makes a compelling historical argument. Not This Time, currently one of the most successful young stallions in America, had his career cut short by injury after just 4 starts. Dark Angel in Europe never ran beyond age 2, but became a champion sire. Going further back, legends like Hail to Reason and Raise a Native had abbreviated careers due to unsoundness, but became foundation sires. But here's the counter argument that skeptics would raise. For every successful stallion with a short career, there are dozens who failed to make any impact at stud. Racing proves heart, determination, and the ability to perform under pressure, qualities that many believe are essential for producing successful racehorses. He's by one of the most highly regarded young stallions in the world in Vekoma, out of an Indian Charlie mare who was an undefeated 2-year-old stakes winner. And he was handpicked by one of the best judges in the industry in John Moynihan, Jones emphasized. We made a commitment to Richard Rigney and his team that we would give him the support he deserves with our broodmare band, and we can't wait to get started in honoring that commitment. That last part about supporting him with their broodmare band is crucial and shows Airdrie's confidence. When a farm commits to breeding their own best mares to a young stallion, they're literally putting their money where their mouth is. Owner Richard Rigney's perspective adds another layer to this story. Jonathan's Way has been very special to our family and our racing team. We really believed we had a Derby horse, but it just wasn't meant to be. We are equal partners with Airdrie, and we are so happy to partner with a team that believes in him as much as we do. We will both be supporting him strongly, and I really believe he will repay our faith for many years to come. The partnership structure between Rigney Racing and Airdrie Stud is also worth noting. Equal partnerships in stallion ownership are relatively uncommon and suggest both parties have significant financial skin in the game. Jonathan's Way will be available for inspection at Airdrie throughout the Keeneland September yearling sale, giving potential breeders a chance to evaluate him in person before his stud fee is announced. The fact that they're waiting until after the sale to announce his fee is strategic. It allows them to gauge industry interest and set pricing accordingly. He'll be joining an impressive stallion roster at Airdrie that reads like a who's who of successful racehorses turned breeding prospects. Beau Liam, Cairo Prince, Collected, Complexity, Divisadero, Gervin, Happy Saver, Highly Motivated, Mage, and Upstart. Perhaps most notably, 2024 Kentucky Derby winner Mystic Dan will also be joining the Airdrie roster once his racing career concludes. So here's the million-dollar question that's sure to spark debate. Is Jonathan's Way destined for stud success? Or is the industry placing too much faith in potential over proven performance? On one hand, you have a horse with obvious talent, impeccable breeding, and the backing of respected industry professionals who are willing to invest serious money in his future. His brief racing career showed flashes of brilliance, and his pedigree suggests he has all the genetic tools to be successful. On the other hand, racing is ultimately about heart, determination, and the ability to perform when it matters most. Qualities that can only be truly tested on the racetrack. Jonathan's Way, through no fault of his own, never got that ultimate test as a 3-year-old when the competition gets serious and the races matter most. What do you think? Is the thoroughbred industry too quick to retire promising horses to breeding careers? Or is this a smart business decision that recognizes talent regardless of circumstances? Should racing accomplishments always trump breeding potential? Or can genetic superiority overcome limited race experience? Share your thoughts. This is exactly the kind of debate that makes horse racing endlessly fascinating and occasionally frustrating.